Welcome, everyone. This is the third part of our Design for Deeper Learning series that many of you have been us for the entire time, and it's so nice to have you all. We're here in our third part, and I'll introduce Mike in a moment. But the one thing I want to add to this slide that's not here is we had so much fun at our Power Hour of Learning Design 2 weeks ago that we're doing it again. And so make sure that if you want to join us a week from now for just an open forum, let's talk about your design challenges. Do know that the Power Hour is happening again. I had too much fun. I want to do it again. So welcome to the Design for Deeper Learning series. Mike, we can go to the next slide. I just really want to honor our partners and our friends who have allowed us to reach many of you. That most days I sit in Seattle and I eagerly want to connect with learning leaders across the country. And these are some of our partners who allow that to happen. We're so grateful for that. I want to give you a quick just show of who's here today. And there's folks from all across, not only the United States, but we have friends from Canada, and we warmly welcome our community from across North America. People, you all who care so deeply in having excellent learning programs every time. So thank you for being here. And finally, I really like to remind us of our goal. Our goal in coming together is to elevate effective and inclusive adult learning practice in the social sector, so the people who work on behalf of our communities have the knowledge, skills, and tools they need to thrive, and the people served by our organizations live with joy and liberation. So your work is so important, and I'm so grateful to be part of this community with you. So with that, I want to introduce Mike. And I have an official bio here, 2 decades of experience in instructional design and learning technology, works for Nationwide in Columbus, Ohio, teaches instructional learning technology at Franklin University. So I could read all of this, or I could tell you, and I know there's so many of my clients here, so I really shouldn't be saying what I'm about to say. So much of what I do comes back to Mike Taylor. So if you've ever said, Nancy, you've got some really cool, interesting slides, I learned about Power User and Bright Carbon from Mike. If you if you notice a certain thing about something that I'm doing, chances are I found it in the Friday Finds. So with that, have fangirled for years with Mike's knowledge and his ability to produce such useful content that I am so pleased to introduce you to Mike and to hand it over to Mike Taylor. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nancy. Can I just bring you everywhere I go and you can just do that for me and I'll pay you? So anyway, I'm super grateful to spend some time with you guys today. I know everybody's time is super valuable. And so hopefully this will be a very practical thing that you can walk away with, things you can start doing right away. I won't talk too much about my background. Nancy covered that. If you're interested I send a newsletter every Friday that is free. Anybody can sign. The other thing that I will do, if you want a copy of the slides, links to stuff I talk about, at the end, I'll give you a chance. You can have all of that stuff, my contact information. So don't feel like you have to furiously scribble down a bunch of things because I'll give you everything I have. So if I have it, it's yours. If you have questions afterwards, happy to take those as well. So kind of 3 big parts to what we'll talk about. Kind of start off with a little bit of overview, a little context around this AI stuff. We can't really talk about AI without touching on prompting, prompt engineering. You may have heard that term a little bit. And then we have time, we'll have a chance to maybe look at some AI tools that maybe specialize in certain areas. So for writing or video or images or stuff like that. And so that's the game plan of where we're heading. And I'd like to start off, let's just start off with a quick poll. I'm gonna ask my co-pilot here. Bethany, can you pull those up? My Zoom skills, oh, here it is. There we go. Let's do this one. Let's launch that. I just want to see kind of where is everybody? Are you using it? You're using it for everything. It's integrated. We don't even know how to spell it. Where do we fall on that spectrum of AI use. Let's see how this pans out. Okay, good. Regular user using it occasionally. Awesome. We give everybody maybe a few more seconds to get their vote in there. That's awesome. So it looks like we're centered around that. Everybody's using it. Nobody, a few not using it, but curious. All right, awesome. That's super, super helpful. Thank you so much for weighing in on that. That's going to help as we go through here. Now, the other thing, if you're one of those people, let's just maybe put this in chat, or if you want to come off and mute and share it. What are some of the top things for the people that are using it? What are some of the top uses you've found so far, and what do you like about it? Anybody want to jump off and share anything around that?
I see a lot in the chat box. Folks, if you want to come off mute, you're very welcome. We're friends and family here.
Session descriptions, translation, generating ideas, editing marketing documents. Oh, I love Fathom Note Taker, Sue. That's a good one. Use that all the time. Creative starting points, brainstorming. Yes, I can totally relate, Margaret. I've been a team of one for many years. It's super nice to have even if it's an AI person to think with you. Changing tone. Awesome, you guys. So this is fantastic. So this is going to be really, really good. And it's good to see that some of you guys have been working with this already. So for those of you who maybe haven't been doing quite as much stuff, I found this the other day. I thought this was kind of insightful. So what are kind of some of the top things that people are doing with AI? According to this data, the most popular thing is image generation and editing. So starting to get really, really good. Even in the past year, it feels like every week they're coming out with new updates. Writing and editing, which we covered there pretty good. Research obviously fits to a lot of what we do. Programming and coding, depending on what you're doing with that, could come into play. Audio generation is one of my favorites. I said, gosh, probably about 4 years ago, I'm never going to record my voice ever again because the AI voices are getting good. And today, 4 years later, they're starting to be really, really good. Video generators and editors, and then other stuff. So that's kind of the breakdown of what people are doing. Some of the benefits you may have heard. So there's tons of stuff coming out here all the time. So there's one from MIT that found AI boosts workers' performance by nearly 40%. McKinsey found AI analytics help decision-making accuracy increase by 40%. Adobe found 75% of creatives, which probably a fair amount of us fall into that, enhances creativity, and I would agree. And then learning-wise, this one just came out recently from Harvard. Some AI tutors that they used in the study doubled learning rates. So lots of really cool benefits to AI. One thing I sometimes have to remind myself and others is it's not a silver bullet. We can't use it for everything, and it's kind of important to have a little bit of a insight to, when does it make sense to use it and maybe when not to use it. So kind of some general strengths of AI: efficiency and productivity. It can help us automate and streamline a lot of that, kind of call it busy work stuff that you just got to crank through, and spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff. And by doing that, it kind of helps us get to the more important, more creative things. And as somebody mentioned in the comments there, right, helping you brainstorm and come up with ideas that maybe you might not have come up with on your own. So those are a couple of the big strengths. Of course, we all probably know there's some weaknesses too. It's not always accurate, and they can be biased. So I've been doing research, and it comes up and gives me this amazing study, which sounds absolutely perfect. You go check it, and it doesn't exist. So it hallucinates from time to time. And if you've used it, you've probably run into that. So always, always, always fact check what it gives us. And then, it's just a computer, right? It doesn't have any context. It doesn't know, what is our culture? What is our mission? What is our scenarios and constraints and all of those things? So that's where the human part comes in. And it's also the part that excites me the most is I don't think AI is going to replace us, but it's going to replace that busy work and let us do more creative, more important things. So that's the biggest reason why I'm excited by a lot of this stuff. So quick recap. So the AI can help us with speed, scale, and efficiency. We still need, and I think we'll always need, a human overseeing this in the middle. Things like judgment, context, alignment to mission and goals, those sort of things I think will not uh, be replaced by AI anytime soon, if ever. So it sort of brings us to this point here. There are certain things that we can kind of let AI take the lead on, and with a little bit of human review somewhere along the line. So things like analyzing data, initial research, first drafts, brainstorming. I love to brainstorm with it. It's a great thinking partner. Those are all fine to sort of let AI run with, again, with a little bit of human review. There's a kind of middle category here, this sort of collaborative where we're teaming up with the AI. So I do this for presentations, thinking of content, data analysis, strategic planning, creating training materials. So maybe the AI gives you the initial outline, requires a little bit more human partnership to get when you get into the detail of actually creating the detailed content. And then the last one, there's always going to be a subset of things where it just requires a human and AI I wouldn't trust to do some of these things. Ethical decisions, complex judgments, unique situations outside of normal patterns. So there's always exceptions, and that's where a human needs to weigh in. So that's kind of the spectrum as I see, and it's just a point that not everything is AI, and there are sort of different flavors of that. With the key important point, and we'll probably hear this a lot, but it requires a human here, some oversight. So I would never just take anything that AI gave me and copy paste it and directly. Wouldn't want to automate things like that. I wouldn't trust it. It's not to that point, I don't think, anywhere close yet. So we need humans to review it. Even it's changing so rapidly, what may happen today may change tomorrow or next week. And so some regular assessment of what it's doing is also pretty important. When we think about sort of what are those things of we need to think about and consider as we go down this AI path. First one is transparency and trust. If you're going to use it, I think it's important that people know you're using it. We want to make sure our stakeholders are informed. We don't want that to be a surprise for anybody, especially if something were to happen. Equity and access, another one. All of the information in these AI, it comes from human generated content, which has biases. So therefore the AI has those same biases inherently embedded in them. And then if we're using this, we don't want anybody to be left behind. So if they don't have access to technology, they're on the other side of that digital divide. We want to also consider that and make sure that that's not happening. And then lastly, and also very importantly, you've probably heard this before if you've used AI in your organization, you don't want to put any private sensitive information into these tools unless you are 100% absolutely certain that it's secured. Otherwise, we're just sort of feeding the AI monster and they now have our data, and who knows who else may also have our data as a result of that. So we want to respect data rights. Really, anything that is sensitive or private, be super, super absolutely sure that it is safe and it's not going to go anywhere that you don't expect it to. So all of that is a lot to say. AI is not really about replacing us, but it's sort of augmenting our capabilities so we can focus on what matters the most. So that's the most exciting part of all of this for me. And I love this quote. It's not a substitute for human intelligence. It's a tool to amplify human creativity and ingenuity. So I think that captures it really, really well. Three things everybody should know. So no matter where you're at in your AI experience, I think this is important. It's a tool, not a replacement, like we were talking about. Uh, there's no one single right way. So if you see somebody who looks super smart in this, that's okay. Their way may not be your way. There's no quote right way. And you're not too late, right? Like people are still discovering this. Seems like it may be everywhere. We'll talk a little bit about kind of that distribution here in a minute, but you're not too late to jump in and start doing work with AI and helping your helping what you do in the workplace. And then this one is kind of what we're going to get into the rest of our time together here. To learn AI, you have to use AI. It's just one of those things. You can listen to somebody talk to it for days or weeks, but you're never really going to truly get it until you start to kind of change your mindset, understand the type of things that you can do, and then just trying it out and trying new things. So I talked about kind of the usage. There's sort of a bell curve distribution of where people are on their AI journey. The first one is ignorance. I don't think there's very many people who don't know about AI and what it is and that it's out here. There might be some misunderstandings or misconception might be where most of those people fall. The second one up a little bit bigger is resistance. And that could be because of two things. Could be active resistance. They just refuse to do it for whatever reason. My guess is most of this is they don't like change. Their old way is okay, it's good enough. And it could be a form of passive resistance. Most people are in this adaptation phase, so they're starting to use it. Sometimes, they might have some missteps. They might use it to varying results. That's by far, I think, the biggest group of people. And then after we start coming down on the other side here to competence, this is where we really start to see advantages to what we're doing, developing skilled use of AI tools, and probably require some dedicated learning and practice, right? So digging into that a little bit deeper. And then the last one here is mastery, which may be almost impossible because the stuff is changing so fast and what you master today is going to change next week. So there are probably some innovators here that work at some of these companies, but that's a pretty small number. Specifically in nonprofits, Google for Nonprofits had a report that came out not long ago. I'm curious if anybody can relate to their findings. It said that 2/3 of nonprofits said a lack of familiarity with AI was their biggest adoption barrier. And 40% of nonprofits said nobody in their organization was educated. So hopefully, at least a small degree, none of your organizations, for the people here today, can say that after today. But kind of in general, in addition to those two things, the same report talked about some of the other adoption barriers. Selection of tools was another big one, and lack of funding, which is probably not a surprise to a lot of people. So pause here, take a breath.
Yeah.
Questions, comments, reactions. Hopefully we haven't put anybody to sleep quite yet.
How many of you can relate to these reasons why it's not being adopted? I would also be curious if there's generational differences. I've walked into nonprofits where the under 30s are using it like without even thinking about it, whereas the over 40s or over 50s are like, we're not doing that. Is it Edna Casa Youth Connection?
It's Gwen, sorry.
Gwen, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. My question is so I've only really used it personally. I've used it like to get my medical results, sorted out and that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
As far as professionally, where would you suggest one start?
I think it's personal. And
Okay.
so I don't think there's a right or wrong place to start.
Okay.
I think as you start to think about it, and we're going to go through some examples today, but I would think if there's something that you do that is repetitive or something that you could maybe use a thinking partner with. Those are two good places to start.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that. So I want to
Okay.
loop back to that here in a little bit and see if we can set any light bulbs off for
I
you along
apologize
those
if I
lines.
jumped ahead.
No worries. No, that's not a problem at all. No, that's perfect. But I think the answer is, for better for worse, it depends, and it depends on your work and you and this type of stuff. But let's put a pin in that and let's circle back to that because I think we'll get to some of that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's interesting, Nancy, you mentioned generational. My son's a freshman in college, and my daughter's a junior in high school, and I mention it to them, and I think their teachers have scared them, and they think it's just cheating. And I try to inform them that, well, that's one way, but there's all these other ways. So I'm hoping my son, in the course of 4 years of college, is re-educated into that's not the way it has to be. So interesting.
Yes.
I just wanted to jump in with a barrier here.
Sure.
Because Nancy and I generate a lot of cool stuff together. And every time I upload my IP to, say, okay, here's an outline, whatever, I feel like I'm giving away my IP.
That's a factor. That's a consideration. It is absolutely, because you've probably seen in the news lawsuits about media companies and news companies and stuff suing these AI because they have just sucked in the internet, right? And so that's definitely something to keep in mind for sure.
Mhm. We're seeing it from Gus in the comments here, also fear-based resistance, afraid to use it. Mary comments, not opposed, but trying to understand the privacy security side of it, which is to Meps's point on that. Yeah, we have accuracy concerns with Chelsea. Interesting. And yet I will say I use it all the time. It's a tab open on my computer at all times. And to go to the question from Gwen around when to start using it, any moment that you have a blank computer screen and you're like, shoot, I've got to write that letter. Shoot, I've got to come up with a checklist on safety and health issues. That's where it's your friend.
I was just talking this morning to a friend, and we were having this conversation, and she said, I was trying to write a note in a greeting card to a good friend, and I didn't have the words. And she didn't copy and paste it directly, but she said, this is what I'm trying to say, word this as if it's a close friend, and it got her unstuck and gave her what she wanted. So it's really a very broad spectrum of things that you can use it for. And I also say, I just throw stuff at it. I have an idea. I wonder if it can do this, and throw it at it. And sometimes it may do it, sometimes it may not. And then sometimes what it can't do this week, it might do next week because it's updating so fast. So that's something, once you start thinking about it, you'll find way more uses than you might imagine.
And we're seeing some of those coming in. We have a donation
Absolutely.
request, 5 minutes. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think writing is a superpower. And if you're like me and that doesn't inherently come easily, this can give you a nice boost. So let's start talking about that a little bit, because we're going to get into that exactly here. So kind of to take advantage of AI's potential, one of the things we need to do is sort of understand this whole idea of prompting. So what is anybody have a good example of how you would explain what is prompting? Maybe if I give you the unenviable assignment of explaining this to my dad, what would you tell him? Anybody? Nancy, do you have a good one?
Well, I want to, Gwen had her hand up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see it.
Nope, that's okay. And I only know this from TikTok, but somebody on the video said, you want to start your prompts with, you are an expert in whatever you're going to search for. And then you're going to want to give another refining prompt, such as we're writing from an 8th grade perspective or something.
Yeah. You're ahead of the class. So we're coming right to that, but you're exactly right. You're exactly right. So my favorite definition of this, is it's a machine you're programming with words. And I love that because I think it's really simply captures that. If you do learning work and you're curious in how AI can be applied to learning, Ethan Mollick is at Penn, the Wharton School, and writes a bunch of stuff on his Substack and LinkedIn if you're curious to follow somebody. But it's a machine we're programming with words, and I think that captures it really well. So let's do another quick poll here to see where we're at on prompt writing. So let's do poll number 2. And let's see how many people have written a prompt to generate content or do anything for that matter. Okay, good. 70%-ish hovering. Awesome. All right, a few more seconds. Couple people, what's a prompt? That's good. You're in the right place. We're gonna solve that for you. So we're around 70-ish%. Thanks for weighing in. That is super good to know. This next one, we're gonna try to use, if you're familiar with Zoom and the annotation tools. Nancy and I just discovered the other day that this has been updated in the past few days, so this may be a little bit different. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you may have to hover your mouse around there to find it. Hopefully we can find that little pencil. You click on it and then get the vertical bar to go and grab the stamping tool and the check mark stamping tool. So I'm going to give folks a moment because I know it threw me the first time. Carl found it. Okay, cool. Awesome. Let's go to the next
Mike, I'll
one.
tell you, in my experience, once you teach people annotations, your slides are going to be filled with check marks and hearts.
Yep, that's all right. That's all right. I found it. Okay. Clear all drawings. Yes, I found the right place. I had a screenshot of the actual thing in the same place, and so that's why I couldn't find it. Okay. So which of these, use that same stamp tool and or star, whatever you want, and just click on the ones that you've used. So we'll see how this distribution, these are kind of the big 3. Gemini, Google Gemini might be some of the other votes for other down there. I'm curious to hear about that. Okay, looks like Claude is falling behind. ChatGPT looks like the leader. Copilot's in the middle. Adobe PDF, Carl mentioned for one of the others. Did anybody, yeah, Perplexity from Jason. Anybody use Google Gemini? I'm curious. I use that one a lot. All right, awesome, cool. So that's super helpful to see where everybody is at and what your favorite AI tool is. Let me clear those and we will keep going here. So awesome. What I would like to do is we'll go into breakout rooms. We'll try to put maybe 4 to a room and use whatever one of those you like, your preferred AI tool, to come up with at least 5 ideas for donor event themes. And you can, in your group, when you get in there, you can decide amongst yourself if one brave person wants to be the designated driver. Everybody can tell them what to do. They can drive the AI, share their screen. You can do that. That's one option. Or if everybody wants to kind of do their own individually, you can talk amongst yourself and share what you're finding. So if you all want to use different AI, that might be an option. We'll let you guys decide. And what we're doing is we're trying to come up with 5 ideas for donor event themes. So what questions do we have about what we're trying to get to here?
Any questions before we send you to breakout rooms? And I've done a little bit of matchmaking, so hopefully the rooms are
Yes.
wonderful. Go ahead.
Yes. So what if you don't have a AI on your computer? I mean, what do we do to access it?
You can pull up a web browser.
Okay.
And I will, let me put the can put the links in chat here.
And members of your group probably have, the folks who registered before yesterday got an email warning you that a login would be helpful. So I would guess people in your group also have created logins and you can work together.
Yeah. And I'm dropping some in here, so either of those will work.
We see folks going into their rooms. How long are they in their rooms, Mike?
Let's try 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes.
Welcome back, everybody. So I'm super curious to hear. I've got a few questions up here on the screen, but don't feel like you're limited to any of those. Any sort of newer people that maybe that's a relatively new experience have comments, or any pros? You're welcome to jump in.
I'd be curious for a first time chat or whatever AI tool user, how'd that go?
I guess that's me. Oh, sorry. Someone else. Go
Go
ahead. Cindy.
ahead.
Okay. I was going to say that it was, I mean, it was very easy to use. Not that I thought it would be difficult, but what was really interesting is that I put in one prompt and then the two other people in my group put in different ones. And then how again, it seems obvious, but the more detailed prompts, we got more detailed responses and different ones, the different level of complexity. So that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Let's
And
see, was
do-
it Cindy or who else wanted to say something?
Yes, it was me. It was my first time and it was very easy. I just downloaded the Claude and tried it, and then I gave another instruction that more personalized the ideas, and it was very easy.
And so my kind of follow-up question is, do you think that was it creative? Did it help spark any ideas that were valuable? Was the quality of the stuff good?
Oh
And
yeah.
would that have saved you time if you're going through this for real?
Yes.
Awesome. See a lot of heads just sort of going up and down, north and south. So that's a good sign. Awesome. Cool. Okay. So I want to keep going here. And if you're new, so Daria may have started off this way. And it's easy to get started, right? It's really intuitive. We're used to chatting with people. You just go in there, you put in some stuff, and you don't really think about it a whole lot, right? That's called conversational prompting, and it's okay for some things, but you may find you might get, because it doesn't have context, right? Can't read our mind. It's just doing what we put in. You might get irrelevant responses. It might be off the mark. It might be too broad, too general to be worth valuable. And that just might not be logical. It gives you something in kind of a weird way. So if you want to do specific things and more well-defined tasks, that we want to kind of structure these prompts, and you guys have mentioned that give it more detail is the essence of this structured prompting. So I think there's 4 pieces. You'll see all kinds of models, but they all kind of come back to these same 4 pieces. So if we think about giving a prompt to one of these AI tools, somebody mentioned this earlier, give it a persona. Act as an experienced instructional designer. Act as an experienced marketing copywriter. Act as a novice insurance adjuster, right? If you're trying to have them be your audience and you want to ask them questions, you could do that as well. So give them some context to play a role. That by itself will give you a pretty good leap in results. Give it the context, relevant information. Again, you are the only person who knows what your specific details are. Give it those details. Clarity, try to be clear and concise. If you put in acronyms and jargon, you may not have quite as good luck. So think about, what's it going to understand, and give it as much explicit instructions as you can. So if you want an output in a certain format, give an example. I want the output in this format. You could say, I want my output in a table format. Like, tell it what you want, if that's what you want, and that will help. And then the 4th thing is try to be specific, use examples like I was talking there, just be as precise as you can. And if you can add those things to your prompt, you're gonna see a noticeable difference in what you get back and what those results are. So there are a whole bunch of different prompt models that will help you remember those parts and pieces to these structured prompts. Personally, I think every prompt model you see all comes back to basically this. This is the essence of it. Give it a persona, give it the context, and what's the task you want it to do. Some of these have more letters and they give you more details, but it all boils down to these three things. So for example, in our example that we just worked on, the persona would be, you are an experienced development director. I may say, you're an experienced nonprofit development director, be even more specific. The context, I'm planning a major donor event for a nonprofit focused on whatever your mission is, fill that in. And then what do I want it to do? The task, generate creative and engaging donor event themes. We can drill into each of those. So for example, in my task, I could say generate creative, engaging donor event themes that tap into emotion and make donors more willing to, like, I can enhance all of these, but this is just a model or a framework.
Mike, Chris had his hand up. I want to.
So I was actually going to ask you, Mike, for an example of what you're exactly doing right now, which is kind of taking us through a prompt, like what a good prompt for this activity was going to be. So you intuited what my question was going to be, and you went right into it.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you,
awesome,
Chris.
thanks. So if we kind of put that out in prompt format, right? You're an experienced nonprofit development director. I would say, generate at least 5 unique, inspiring themes for a major donor event focused on whatever your mission is. Consider themes that evoke emotion, highlight impact, and encourage donor participation. Pretty good place to start. So a couple of these models, these are 2 simple ones if you want to kind of take it a step further, but don't feel like you have to. So like I said, they all come back to that persona, context, and task ultimately. But if you want to kind of add in a few more details to the CLEAR framework, context, limitations, examples, your aim or your goal, and then the role. So you notice they put the persona last. Doesn't matter if it's first or last order, it doesn't matter. This one's as old as time. Who, what, when, where, why, how. You can use that. That's an easy one to remember. We probably all have that one etched in our brain. So this example, if we look at this example prompt, write a short newsletter article for our donors, highlighting the impact of their contributions over the past year. This article will be featured in our year-end newsletter. Goal is to encourage continued support using a grateful and heartfelt tone. That tone is something I use a lot in writing. Lighthearted. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, Carl has a question. Do you include the words who, what, when, where, and why in your prompt, or just put it the way you have it?
Nope, just the way I have it. That was just to kind of call out the parts and pieces.
And one of the questions I've heard, I have, because based on what I've heard, is it okay to give it all at once, or should you feed this out over a series of prompts?
So depending on the size of what you're trying to do. So that's this example I use is, let's say that I want to use this I'm going to create a presentation. I wouldn't try to do that in one big long thread because I would want to break it into subtasks. So the first task might be help me brainstorm ideas and topics. I might have another subtask that is maybe about analyze my audience and what are their interests and pain points. I might have a third one around layouts for designing particular slides. So if you can break them into subtasks and do them that way, you'll have better results than try to do them in one big long giant thread. You'll also notice, depending on whether you have a free or a paid account, long threads will use more tokens faster. Some of them will even come up with a little message at some point telling you that. It says, hey, this is a long thread. Do you want to start a new one so you don't run out of tokens, which is their way to measure usage.
What are tokens?
Tokens is just how much we're sending back and forth. And And so if I upload a video and have it analyze it, that's going to use a whole bunch. If it's just text, it's not as much. So now the cool thing, I think this is cool. I think it's all cool, but here's a little cheat code that you can use, is you can use the AI to improve your prompts. So we could take that prompt we just saw, I could put it into ChatGPT, but instead of just submitting that, I would ask it, I would give it a role. I say, you are an AI prompt expert. Evaluate this prompt to make recommendations. Paste my prompt and tell it how to fix it, basically, and improve it. It's amazing. Claude has a special tool that's built specifically for that, and it is amazing. So it's really meta, right? Let the AI help you prompt your prompt with a prompt kind of thing. That makes sense? Any questions about what I'm talking about? So ChatGPT has this concept of GPTs, which are like specialized, customized versions. And so the way these work is they've got a set of specific instructions around different tasks. And you can see them up in the top left when you're in ChatGPT, but they do have a whole host of these that are built specifically for helping you with prompts. Prompt Engineer, the first one is one I've used. I've used a couple of the others, and they work great. It just helps you structure your prompt in a way that works really well.
And these, I'm sorry, these are, you have to pay for these?
No,
Okay.
no, these are free. So this is something that's helpful, but no matter what you use, you can just use the tool itself without these, but these are just sort of custom built. So if you're in Copilot, no matter what you are, you can still use that same strategy. Huge help. And it will also help you. You'll see, you do this a couple of times, you're like, oh, I see what they're doing, and you'll learn how to write those better. So it's like you're getting education along the way. A second cheat code, and I put this at the bottom of most of my prompts, tell it to ask you questions. So for example, this is the exact sentence I put at the bottom of a lot of my prompts. Ask me questions that will help you provide the best possible response. What am I not thinking of? It'll typically come back with 2 to 3 to 5 questions. And that is things that, hey, this will help me give you a better response. So super simple thing. I can probably, it's like muscle memory. I've typed this sentence so many times now. That makes sense what we're doing with this? Yeah. So all of that prompting stuff that we've just talked about here, we went from just, oh, I'm going to put something in there to create some themes for a donor event, to something a little more structured and detailed. So that's going to get you much better results. So what I'd like to do, if you guys are up for it, I don't think we'll need 10 minutes this time. Let's maybe take 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Do that same thing that you did last time, but use it now with your newfound knowledge. And let's see if we get any different results.
Did other groups have screen sharing capabilities?
No, I was going to ask the.
Yeah, we don't have it. So it was,
Okay.
I think it's an account setting. So that's my bad.
Totally fine.
Yeah. Any other questions before we do our Harry Potter breakout maneuver?
Awesome. We'll see you
Okay.
in about 10 minutes. Have fun. Well, welcome back, everyone.
All right. So how did that second pass compare to the first pass? What kind of things did we add? And how did the outputs, or did the outputs change? I'm curious to hear.
I can share, Mike. I happen to provide more detail and really put it from my perspective at Eastern Area Agency on Aging. So one thing that we're always fundraising for is Meals on Wheels. So I gave it a prompt of like, really, you are a fundraising director for Eastern Area Agency on Aging. fundraising for our specific program, Meals on Wheels, and kind of based the prompt on that. And it really kind of tied in like fundraising ideas that would kind of be themed toward Meals on Wheels, which was really, it was kind of super creative, and provided much more detail. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Did you have a favorite one that it come up with?
I think like there was a couple, like there's one called Meals in Motion, which is kind of a fun walk run.
Oh, nice.
And then and kind of an empty plate gala. So there's a lot of like plays to meal or ties to meals and dinners and stuff like that. But I always kind of like the Meals in Motion fun run walk.
Awesome. Well, anybody else have any comments or observations? Daria, did you do anything differently this time?
See, this is what happens when you talk. They keep coming back to you. No, I'm kidding. But I did. No, I was actually just about to get off mute. I did the thing about ask the questions, like, oh, do you have any questions for me? And you know, to help with your response. And it gave like 5 different areas, which would be the logical areas, but I'm not sure I would have thought about them in the craziness of planning a event. So that was very helpful. So I tried that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
No, of course. I was just joking.
All right. Awesome. Anything else? Going once, going.
I'll just say it became more of a conversation.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Awesome. So hopefully that sort of gives us a little bit of insight. I think with those couple of cheat codes, you're pretty well armed now to go and start looking for things you can use this on and get some pretty valuable results. And really their only limitation is your imagination at this point. So congratulations. The other thing that Nancy and I were just talking about a little bit as everybody came back is if you find a really good prompt that works for emails or newsletters or learning objectives or whatever, you want to save it and reuse that. You know, save those. What I always recommend people is create like a little prompt library. It could be in Excel, it could be in Notion. I know Carl's a big Notion person. Whatever, however you organize things, however your brain works, just save those because I would never remember them. And sometimes if you do a lot of them, it's hard to go back and find the old ones because you've got so many. So that's a good idea that I think is helpful, is just start a prompt library. If you read something online, oh, I want to try that, right? Just copy and paste it into your library and share it with others. I'm actually pretty fortunate. So I work at Nationwide. Our entire company has a shared prompt library corporately. So if I'm new and I don't have them, to go over to pull somebody else's to get started, it's a huge help just to get past that idea of a blank page, right? Can be super helpful. Okay, so I'm going to kind of wrap up the prompting stuff here, but before we do that, are there any questions, anything that's not clear, any other comments before we shift gears into this last section?
I have a question. So
Sure.
you mentioned 3 different AI tools.
Yep.
Are some better for like fundraising, or others better for business application, or are they all?
So I would say
virtuosos?
I would put it this way. I would say it's not necessarily better versus worse. The way I put it is they each have unique personalities. The way they phrase things, the style of the way they give you responses. I just read an article this morning. Philippa Hardman she's another person who does a lot of stuff with AI and learning. And she wrote a great Substack post about Claude, Google Gemini, and ChatGPT, and which one is best for instructional design type work. And she picked my favorite, actually. I like Claude is the one that I pay for, have a paid account. So what I typically do is I find that I'll bounce between different ones. So like I like the logic and the outcome of Claude, but a lot of times I like the wording and the personality of Gemini. And so I'll take stuff even between one or two different AI systems for different reasons. But that's just me, and that's my personal taste. And you guys may, you know, think something different.
Can you
I
say a
think
few
Gus
words
might-
about cost? Sorry.
Oh yeah, cost. So all of these have free options. I think ChatGPT and Claude are about $20 a month if you want to upgrade. You get higher limits, so you can use it more. You use a higher level model. So when you hit a certain limit on free, it bumps you back down to whatever the previous model was. Not that they're super drastic, huge differences. But I did, when I first had my first paid ChatGPT account, I did notice a difference. Nancy, I don't know if you noticed a
Yeah, I
difference.
pay and it's worth it. Totally worth
Yeah.
it. Could you repeat the name of the person who's also an AI and learning person?
Philippa Hardman.
Philippa?
And I
Okay.
have it on a slide at the end and in the resources, so I'm going to give it
Okay.
to you. Yep,
Excellent.
I'm going to give it to you. Josh Cavalier is another person who I'm also going to give you. He has a whole library of like 250 learning related prompts. They're basic ones, but they're great starting points. So that's another person that I'm going to give you here at the end. So yeah, great question, Laura. Thank you. Okay, cool. So this last 20 minutes-ish, and I want to try to save some time for questions and stuff too, is somebody mentioned graphics. I saw that in the chat. We're going to get to that. I'm just going to kind of get to some tools. So these aren't ones that are really prompt engineering heavy, but they're using AI behind the scenes to do a bunch of really cool stuff. So we'll get to a few of these, and then we'll save some time for questions. And I'd like to start with Canva. Nancy, we were talking about this a little bit. How many people here use Canva regularly, or at least have tried it? Sky's with me, Gwen. Gus, all right, cool. So if you haven't tried it, I don't get paid anything, but I should because I talk about it so much. I was telling Nancy, if I could only pick one single tool to use the rest of my life, it would be Canva because it does so much stuff. So I'm just going to play a little video, but it's going to cover a whole bunch of things in about 60 seconds. So just notice it's going to be some writing stuff. It's going to be some graphic editing stuff, text to video stuff. So let's let this play and then we can talk about it here. So there's the presentations video. That's taking a whiteboard to a document. Oops. Text to video. So that was a lot of stuff, but I think it sort of illustrated in a super quick way. So it did really cool stuff. So changing the clothes of a stock, this is just a stock photo, and they did the brush and changed her clothes. Picking the person off of the background, again, that was just a flat stock photo. You know, I could move her, resize her, take her out, put a different person in, like all that sort of stuff is some of the AI image things that you can do. Questions, reactions?
I see Carl's hand is up.
Yeah, Carl.
Is that from before?
That it's a high five. It was really just a mistake. Let
A
me
high
put it
five,
down, but
okay.
I love this.
Okay, Gus. Gus, are you also a high five?
No, I am a raised hand. Just so that video, I love that video. And then I go into Canva and I'm like, how the heck do I do any of this stuff? So if you've got tips for, getting started, it's just, yeah, thanks for sharing that again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I will note that the magic design stuff and probably some other things in there, you only get in a paid account, which for me is like $10 a month. So it's a no-brainer. If I can do one of these things a month, I'm getting my money's worth. It also, this is not AI related, but it has a massive library of graphics and stock photos, which I would pay the $10 just to have access to that, and there's no AI involved. A lot of times I'll do a search and I'll find something in a stock photo site like Shutterstock. I'll take the keywords from Shutterstock and search Canva, and it's in Canva for free or for my $10 pro account. So
yeah, I think I have a full account. I'll double check that because I have the nonprofit free version.
Yeah.
So
I have an education one, so I'm guessing
yeah,
it will be
okay.
similar.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Does Canva
And then-
offer classes? We have that question in the chat box.
They have they do webinars. Yes, they do. And I think they put most of them on their YouTube channel, so you could go and find past ones there. And that's what I
Okay.
do, Gus, to your question. Like I see they're adding new stuff all the time. So I see something and I can't find it. So I just go to find somebody on YouTube that shows me how to do it. Like everything else, right? Okay, I have time for one more. And I've got, so these 6 categories up here. Research, we did, actually, I'm gonna take this from Democratic. I'm gonna show you images because that's the question that we had. So scratch that last sentence. I want to look at some image generation and editing tools. And I got a little cheat code in here for this. So tons of stuff you can create. We saw the Canva stuff. That's a great option. If you're images for reports, newsletters, campaigns, whatever, we saw some of the editing features that's possible. Logos, brochures. So we all probably have tons of stuff that we can use, better or, editing capability for images. So here's 3 of my favorite kind of AI image tools. If you give ChatGPT or any of those sort of generic AI tools a prompt and have it build it, they can build it. It does okay. These are sort of purpose built, particularly the first 2, Firefly and FreePic. It will give you a whole panel of things of what style do you want? Do you want it hand drawn? Do you want it photographic? Do you want it pop art? And it'll give you all these options and you'll have way better luck to get what you're trying to get faster. And then Napkin is one that's kind of one of my favorites where it will, if you're writing a report or presentation, you already have text, you just kind of highlight the text and it will generate off of that. So I want to show you that one. And then I'll show you a trick for some other stuff. So let me show you Napkin here first. And then we'll do my cheat code for images. So it's just highlighting the paragraph and then it will generate the relevant images. This is one of my favorites. I'm a sucker for that sort of hand-drawn visual. So that's Napkin. I just wanted to share that because it's so easy. There's a free version that works really well. And then this is the last thing I want to share is this is kind of a cheat code for stock photos because we use those everywhere, presentations and newsletters and websites and all that sort of stuff. So I was working on something a couple weeks ago and I found this image and I'm like, this is exactly what I am looking for. And I was on Shutterstock and I don't know, they wanted some crazy $10 or $20, whatever it was. I'm like, that's crazy. And I had the idea, I was like, let me throw this at an AI and see what it can do. So what I did was I just took this image with the watermarks and all, put it in ChatGPT. I said, write a generative AI image prompt that would result in images like this one. And this is what I got back. This really detailed, descriptive prompt that I would have never in my entire life have ever been able to come up with. And then I took that prompt because I know some other image specific tools are better. So I put it into Firefly and I got these. And I'm like, okay, well, let's compare tools. Then I put it into FreePic and I got these. And then I put it into one more, Ideogram is another one, and I got those in like 2 minutes, which I thought was pretty cool. So I'm not sure that it's going to be rare that I buy stock photos anymore after I learned that sort of trick. Questions, comments, anything on any of the tools around images or anything else?
We've been using a lot of audio to create videos. My colleague Meps can share more if people are interested, but that notion of creating videos using AI, and it just is so much easier. If the information changes, it's so much easier to update the video than to find the original voice talent and all that.
Yeah, I will never record audio again unless it's a super high profile, something that requires a human narrator. 90 something% of the stuff I do, I can use the AI voices.
So which AI voices are you using? Are you using something that is based on your voice or just others?
You can do that. So some of these services will do that. So I've used all of these in the past, and these are all very good, excellent options. And like everything, there's a free plan. If you need more, they'll put you into a paid version. I'm going to give you all of these, even the ones we didn't look at. As a matter of fact, let me give you this. So this is, if you want the slides and the stuff, this is part of it. I built this website. So this is all the tools that I was optimistically hoping we could touch on. We're out of time, and that's fine. But if you want to go and browse, you can sort these by category. There's probably about, I don't know, 40 or 50 tools in there. You can just get to them when you have time. Jason, I don't know about the songwriter, but there's already people making songs with AI, big name recording stars. All right, cool. So I want to make sure we've got some time for questions and address anything maybe that we didn't get to. So let me get to that. Is the QR code if you want the slides. It's automated. I'm not going to send you spam and email you and sell you anything. So if anybody has comments, questions, or anything like that, please jump in.
I'd love to see how you finish these sentences. Sky, napkin is amazing. Yes.
It's my favorite. I love it.
Yeah, and Bethany in the weave has included the survey for today. So just so you don't lose track of that. How else would you finish these sentences? Feel free to unmute as well.
Carl, I'm going to pick on Carl because I know Carl. So Carl, you got to finish a sentence. Oh, mute.
I'd be happy to. I just typed, I got to go to another call. but I still have time to go to the bathroom. I was surprised that there's like a prompt generator to help you generate prompts. That really like, yeah, that blew my mind, and it's pretty exciting. So, because I've always had a little like, not anxiety, but like reluctance to like, I don't know how to do all the prompting and I'm not sure how to do the language. So that kind of gets rid of that for me so that I can get it. So pretty neat.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Carl.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Carl. So who else? Who wants to come off mute? Laura,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, well, I learned so much. I'm going to try to get my staff at the United Way to use this more for fundraising. And I was just surprised at how efficient it generated. Like stuff I needed would take me an hour to do was done in like 2 seconds. It's just embarrassing.
No, it's not embarrassing. It's cool. It's exciting.
It is exciting. It's wondrous.
Yes, yeah. Who has a question? You have a tech expert here. What questions do you have?
This is
Anybody
a smart group. This
one-
is a smart group, Nancy. They know a lot of stuff.
I know they have questions though. Gus.
I don't exactly have a question. In fact, I don't have a question. But what I have found is just like you've been encouraging us, Mike, just keep trying and keep expanding, keep improving those prompts. I just uploaded a manual for a course that I have to develop e-learning for and said, analyze this 200-page manual and suggest an outline, acting as an instructional designer, what this course might look like. And I mean, it needs work, but it would have taken me forever just to do that part, right? So anytime you're just like, this is going to take me forever, I'm going to try this in ChatGPT. And it's just been a game changer. And it gives us time to actually work with the learners and work with our colleagues and collaborate with people. It's not going to take over our jobs like it needs us. So we need
Totally.
really, really
Yeah.
great presentation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that because that's really true.
Yeah, I shared with Mike a really cool way I used it. I work with recovery cafes and you have to apply to be a recovery cafe. And you also have to be a nonprofit. So I took the recovery cafe application and the 1023 that allows you to become a nonprofit. And I asked ChatGPT to compare and contrast these two documents and eventually to produce a new application that would allow anyone who could become a recovery cafe to also be ready to file their 1023. And that's the kind of work that would have taken me hours. Let's see. We had a question here. What was it? Oh, Chelsea, is there anything that helps with bookkeeping and Excel spreadsheets?
Yes, 1000% he Gus nodding his head. So I've seen people write articles of, we may not need Excel anymore. So you can just give it data and tell it what you want to do and it'll do it. So I don't have to have those formulas with 12 embedded sub parenthetical formulas and all that stuff. Is tell it what to do. I haven't done a ton of it, but what little bit I've done with data is amazing.
Awesome. Well, as
fairly
go ahead.
Basic question. I'm just kind of getting into AI, but I would imagine like I think you had kind of pointed this out too, like if you are using AI to identify that, like, created through chat GPT or something like that. And so when you're creating photos and like using them in social media, like what's the best way to acknowledge that AI created that? Is it at the bottom of the picture or like, yeah, so I guess kind of good ways to acknowledge when you are using it and how.
Yeah, so I would be the same way you acknowledge it. It depends on where you're putting it, right? Because just options to be able to do that. Worst case is you could just use an image editor to overlay it in the corner or something like that. Which again depends on the platform and where and how you're using it, but that's a great question. And I think a good idea back to that whole idea of transparency and hey, this is AI generated and stuff. Yeah. Great question.
Excellent. We've reached the end of our time. I know people have to move on to your next meetings. I'm happy to hang out for a few minutes. But for all of you, thank you so much for coming. And Mike, thank you for sharing your wisdom. I use ChatGPT every day and I learned so much. And so I thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, and thanks to everybody for spending some time with us.
Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Please remember to take the survey and please remember to join us for Power Hour next week if you're able and interested. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.